Welcome to episode 1 of Wasteman Corner Crash Course, and today we're going to be talking about an important part of Speaker's Corner. Muslims! Yay! Indeed, today we're going to be discussing the followers of Islam. We're going to be discussing their main enemies, the Christians, on the next episode, but this time we'll focus on the Muslims. Even though there's many similarities, there's also many differences between the two groups. And you better remember those differences when you go to the corner. So, how can we define the Muslims from Speaker's Corner? Unlike the Muslims themselves, I will never say that the Muslims are all one group. Unless when they do terrorist acts. In that case, they say they're not real Muslims, but let's continue about something else. Let's ignore those not very nice truths, those inconvenient truths. So, first of all, we can divide them by popularity. The most popular speakers in Speaker's Corner, Muslim speakers, are usually called the Dawahs, because they're doing Dawah, which, roughly translating it, is something like explaining, expressing, preaching the word of their God, explaining how it is, just, trying to get people into Islam, basically. The Dawahs are the main speakers there, and they are considered as scholars and as trustworthy figures by their followers. I don't think I need to really name names, because most people know them, and there's plenty of YouTube channels on YouTube, much more popular than this one, obviously, that belong to these Dawahs. The other group is something like the casual Muslims, the common Muslims. And these common Muslims, Muslims that don't speak out very often, just pass by, listen, stuff like that, can be divided into two groups. The actual, reasonable Muslims, not even reasonable, but more chilled Muslims, that just have a discussion, they can agree, they can disagree, they can agree to disagree, or they can just ignore you. They don't really care much about whether you criticize Islam or not criticize Islam, and sometimes they might even accept criticism. So they're the people who are best to talk to. And there's also the automatic Muslims, which means every single time you will give them a little bit of criticism to Islam, that's it. The automatism gets activated and they need to immediately defend Islam with all of their strength, or else they don't believe hard enough. Now, both of these groups of people are relatively normal people. There's nothing special about them. They're just people living their lives and not bringing anything that big to the table in discussion. Also because they usually don't know that much about Islam. Now the Dawahs, those are the real deal. There is something that I like to call the Dawah way, which basically means that every single time you will approach a Dawah to speak to him, it begins like this. Unless they know you, of course. If they don't know you, if you're a random speaker or just a random person coming to Speaker's Corner, it will always begin like this. They'll approach you or you'll approach them. You'll have a nice little conversation. They'll start trying to sweet talk you, to tell you how intelligent you are, how, how sincere you are, how pretty you are, whatever. And they will try to slowly but surely bring you to agree with them about specific things in the Quran. Of course, they will not tell you all of the Quran. They will not explain you the worst interpretations that people sometimes make. They will only tell you the best ones. The religion of peace interpretations. The religion of tolerance, the most feminist religion interpretations. Of course, if you know a little bit about the Quran, you know the book is written in metaphors. And metaphors have a big possibility of misinterpretation, depending on who is misinterpreting it. That is why we have things like ISIS and like suicide bombers, because just as well as you can make an impression of the Quran as the book of peace, the religion of peace, you can make an impression of the religion of war, and you can blow yourself up to kill the infidel scumbags. Now, both conclusions are possible with metaphors, and that is the problem with religious books. They're written in metaphors when it's not really certain what they want to say. You don't know it for sure. Now, if you start giving them back, trying to fight back against the Dawas and tell them, wait a second, I remember this specific passage in the Quran that said that women's testimonies are worth half of a man's. And that's the moment when they will give in to their second gear. They will jump on you and they will try to humiliate you as much as possible on camera. It's a thing, you can watch it online as much as you want, and not only with the Dawas actually, many of the Christian preachers do the same thing. But let's not speak about the Christians yet. Next video. Now, the Dawas, they are very good at using fallacies, especially the watchmaker fallacy, which means they will tell you, oh, you know, all of this developed world exists, it means God did it. Right? Wrong. You can't prove that. At least not for sure. Of course, you can't disprove it for sure, but, you know, that's where uncertainty comes into religion, and uncertainty is the worst enemy of religion, always. That's why they see this as a product of the devil, you know, doubt. Ooh, terrible. Philosophy will lead people astray, which is a common comment on Dawa videos. You know, you can watch many of these videos yourself. The titles are usually something like atheist gets destroyed by this specific Dawa, or confused Christian gets schooled by this specific Dawa, or something like that. In fact, they're not really destroying anyone, they're simply using fallacies or shutting up the opposition with their own tricks. And what are these tricks? Well, you know me better than that. I'll explain you exactly what these tricks are. One of the tricks is to get a group of people silently watching. It puts a lot of psychological pressure on the person who's talking to the specific Dawa. You will see this pretty often. Imagine this. Imagine a random person who doesn't know what they're doing there, coming to Speaker's Corner, and then, bam, they're approached by a Dawa, 2-3 cameras, a bunch of Muslims around them. Of course, they will not say anything. They will not intimidate them, because they're trying to bring them in. They're trying to lure them into their religion. Which, you know, is a good marketing strategy. Gotta respect their skills, though. Gotta respect their skills. What happens next? The person will feel peer pressure from all the people around him or her to agree on every single little thing, because the Dawa, will start by flattering them, by talking nicely to them. Oh, you should think about the Quran, you're an intelligent person, you're a wise person, you're a beautiful, a generous, whatever, a sincere person. You need to be Muslim, because that's the right truth, the only truth. Of course, people don't want to be humiliated on camera. Not everybody knows the fallacies that they use. Not everybody knows how to counter them. Not everybody is able to even, resist the peer pressure of the group, of everybody watching them specifically in that moment and expecting them to agree with every single small part of their dogma. Because those people who will be watching around them, they already had their answers for everything. It's you who needs to answer the way they have, or else to be humiliated on camera. Your choice. Reminds me of something, of a certain choice in some monotheistic religions. Ah, yes, if you don't follow the word of God, you go to hell. Yes, indeed, sounds familiar, very familiar. Now, on a serious note, be careful with the Dawas. There are people with absolutely no conscience. Some of them will be very, very greedy. They will do everything they can to lie their way into victory. And some of them will be very, very brainwashed. There are a few Dawas, of course, that do believe in the stuff they're preaching. But that's when a specific thing about Islam comes. Christians have a little bit more scruples about lying in an argument. Muslims, however, there's a specific part of Quran that speaks about this, that says that they can lie if it's in their favor, to spread the righteous word of God. Possible. So yeah, careful with them. The common Muslims in the corner are perfectly fine to speak to. They won't try to intimidate you, or usually won't try to intimidate you, or, to lure you into Islam with fallacies, simply because they don't know any fallacies. Now the Dawas, yes, real piece of work. But don't worry about it, my Muslim brothers. Next time come the Christians. Ciao, ciao.